Hey there. Today we're going to talk about how to and when to invest your money as a DJ slash producer. If you've saved up some money, should you pull the trigger on that? Should you spend some money on certain things? We'll talk about gear and marketing and maybe spending some money on mixing and mastering. But before we start, let me introduce myself. My name's Justin, and I run a program called Cosmic Academy. We're an artist development program. We've been around for over 10 years, and so far we've worked with over 500 students, and those students, they get incredible results. We said 3 students play EDC. They signed to the biggest labels like Tool Room, Armada, Anjuna, and Spinnin'. And from those students, we learn a lot because they're doing it right now. You know, they're climbing the ropes right now. So from them and from my own experience, we're gonna learn some lessons here. Okay, so let's talk about money. Let's talk about using that money to maybe learn things or maybe buy things. And I think that there's a whole misconception here about what you should do with it. Okay? Now, I come from a background of learning things is a very valuable use of your money. All right? So paying a mentor to teach you something, a skill that you could potentially have for the rest of your life, is huge value. On the flip side, if someone continues to sell you a service and then you become reliant on that service and it hasn't been taught to you, that cost is going to be repeated in a cyclical way and cost you way more money than if you would have potentially paid a little bit more to just learn it in the first place. For example, when I started my career, I'm a talent buyer. I used to produce many, many concerts. And when I started my career, I used to pay a company a service fee. They would charge me to do our flyers, any design work, and we would pay them, okay? And at a certain point, I said to myself, is Photoshop that hard? Is designing these flyers that hard to do? And I went and I took some sort of a boot camp. Back then, they didn't call these things boot camps, but I took this little class, and there was just a few people in it. And was it more money than paying the $50 for the flyer design? Of course. It was maybe hundreds. It might have been $1,000. But I learned how to use Photoshop, and I learned how to design flyers and images and things like that. And then I never had to pay for a flyer or a design ever again. If you follow us on Instagram, which you should, check us out on Instagram, all of those designs that you see, I design 50% of them. So if you're like, oh, do they hire some intern? No, me and Zach, the other person that teaches the program with me, we design everything. And I learned how to do this 15 years ago. And paying for that one lesson, think about how valuable that was, that for 15 years now, I've never had to pay again for someone to design a flyer. You know, even if I did another show right now, I would just do it myself in 5 seconds, make that flyer. And now that's a skill that other people pay me for. You know, when people come into Cosmic Academy and I work with them on their brand and their marketing, oh, I know so much about design and the marketing and all those different topics that now people pay us for these skills that we've mastered. So I'm really big on learning this stuff, getting a mentor, taking a class versus paying for services. So let's start breaking down some of the common ones that DJ producers typically want to spend money on. Let's start with the first one, mixing and mastering. I'm sure some of you are going to kill me in the comments, and I think this topic, there's controversy over it, but at Cosmic Academy, we teach mixing and mastering, right? And we teach it for a reason. Same thing as what I was saying before. We don't want our students becoming reliant on some company, on some studio, on somebody else to mix and master their records. You know, I have students now that are signing to the biggest labels in the world, that are playing the main stages of the biggest festivals in the world. And imagine you have a record that's due to a label, and something happens, this, that, and the other thing, and you can't get in touch with your mastering guy or your mixing person. You're fucked. That's it. You know, there's a deadline, there's contracts now. Like, being your own self-sufficient artist is so powerful. So we teach our students to do it themselves. Sure, listen, if you want a second set of ears, I get it. Send it off to them. But knowing how to do it yourself is very, very powerful. You know, Deadmau5 has talked about this quite often, where he does his own mixing and mastering. And his argument is he knows his song so well that he knows At the end of the day, it's his years, it's his project, what he's got to do. And look, I'm not a producer. I'm not here to talk about production, but I know for a fact that something that our students learn is a lot of the mixing and mastering, towards the end of the process, you actually start thinking about in the choices that you make during the beginning of the process. And someone that you're outsourcing this to is not going to have that same scope on the record. But if you want to just throw out what I just said, throw that out, fine. For the sole fact of being reliant on someone else, I still think you should learn mixing and mastering, pay someone to teach it to you so that you won't have to be reliant on folks to do it for you in those times. Okay. Now, when you get very, very successful, start signing to bigger labels, you want to start paying people to do it, top level people, that's all right. But for the most part, I think when people are starting out, they're paying someone $100 to master a record. They're paying someone $200 to mix a record. Most of the services are pretty crap. And you won't know that unless you learned how to do it yourself. And that's an important thing. I always tell this story to my students. One of the first nightclubs I ran, I went and got a bartending license and I learned how to bartend. And I was never going to bartend at my own club, but I learned how to bartend because then I knew which bartenders were good or bad. There was a test you had to take at my bartending school where you had to make 20 mixed drinks in under 5 minutes. And you had to pass this test. They'd give you a mojito and a cosmopolitan. You have to make those two and then you have to make, 18 more. And if you do that in under 5 minutes, you pass. Okay. So I passed. I barely passed 4 minutes and whatever. But when I got back to my venue, I sat my bartenders down. Now I know that in order to be decent at bartending, 20 drinks in under 5 minutes. And I gave them all that test, and now I know who's good or not. So that's another factor here. Mixing and mastering all the other topics that I'm going to cover, knowing who's good, understanding I was a shitty mix. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. That master wasn't great. So again, thinking long term, when you start having tons of money, you want to start outsourcing this stuff, you knowing how to do it, there's a bunch of different areas here that makes it very important. Let's talk about the next thing. Gear. Gear is fun, right? We always want, new plugins and we want new synths and people like hardware and they like all this fun stuff because it's like toys for us, right? It's all these different toys, the microphone's fun and all this stuff. And a huge question we get when people join Cosmic Academy is they'll say, what plugins do I have to buy? Which of these little toys do I have to get? And none of them. Your DAW, like the stock plugins and your Ableton and all the DAWs that you have are really great. And I think that, again, there's a misconception here. This plugin is going to make my compression better, and this plugin is going to make my EQ. If you understand compression, you'll be able to do it anywhere, right? We always say this. It's not the hammer, it's the architect. So this is another one where we don't think you should be going out there and spending all this money on fancy gear, fancy equipment, all these different plugins until you know how to do it, right? It's like, why am I going to go out? I started out and I played guitar when I was younger. I didn't go out and buy the most expensive guitar and the most expensive pedals and all these different amps before I knew how to play it on the most basic level. And I bought the crappiest guitar because, listen, they all got 6 strings, okay? They all can make that noise. And if you can't do it on that base model, don't go out and buy the $5,000 guitar with all those pedals. And we think about gear a lot in that way. So again, learning how to do it first before paying for all these fun little toys. They're still fun though. And then marketing. Social media marketing, I see a lot of people outsource this stuff. And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. You got to learn how to do it yourself. And sometimes it actually almost hurt you, all right? Buying fans, buying followers, worst thing you can do. Paying for bots, all that stuff is really bad now. Like your Instagram, I'm not going to get too much into social media right now, the algorithm. But if you buy 10,000 fake followers, the way that engagement works is you need people to engage with your posts. And your posts won't get pushed out unless they do. So if there's a whole bunch of fake people in your following, Instagram's going to say, why is this page getting such low engagement? Not many people are clicking the like, clicking the share, clicking the save when they have so many followers. Your post will get seen by nobody. So you actually like rather have like 100 real fans than 10,000 fake ones. That's for real, because at least with the 100 real ones, other new people are going to see your posts and then potentially follow you and become your fan. Whereas with 10,000 fake ones, no one will see your post. So spending money on that, really not worth it. Same goes with Spotify and a lot of these other platforms. I don't know if people know this, but none of our students, and us included, no one runs ads. So we don't spend money on advertising. Cosmic Academy sells out. Right now it's May. We're sold out till October, okay? Our students get millions of plays on Spotify. We get students all the time that hit over 1 million plays on a song. We practice what we preach, and no one spends money on advertising. Understanding marketing and paying to learn how it works, that's what it's about. You know, Bexy, one of her songs is about to hit 10 million plays on Spotify. How did she do it? Did she pay for ads? Did she buy fake plays on Spotify? Of course not. She learned how to do marketing on Spotify, paid for the education, and then never had to worry about it again. Okay? Same with us, same with our students that build big followings on TikTok and Instagram. Pay to learn how to do it, buying it, advertising. It's almost like you become enslaved to that service, or you become enslaved to that thing. You're going to have to do it every single time. Whereas if you learn how to do it organically and build that up, you'll have that foundation forever. So in conclusion and in summation here, I feel like it's very important that when you're spending your money to spend it wisely. And I think that, look, if you're further along on the journey and you're really busy, you have tons of stuff going on, you're playing tons of shows, you have all these signed tracks, okay. You want to outsource some of this stuff, you want someone to help manage your social media, that's different. You want to pay someone to help with your mix and you already know how to do it, that's different. You're too busy and you can't have someone overlook it, that's different, right? But when you're starting out, you need to be spending your money on learning how to do those things, all right? When labels are signing you, when someone like me is booking you at a show, the last thing we want to hear is that you need other people to do the job. Think about that for a second. Think about if you have 2 emails coming into a record label pitching the same song both songs are great. They're 10 out of 10, both songs. But on one of them, it's like, hey, got this great record, and if you sign it, I'm going to need my team to help me. And God forbid your team's not around. God forbid you don't have money to pay the team, but you're going to need this team to help you. On the other side, you have a record coming from an artist that can do all of this on their own. They're self-sufficient. They have these skills. Who would you rather sign? The artist that can do it themselves. The person that's a self-sufficient, just master of these things. Okay? So think about it like that. I think spending money on education is the greatest investment you can make. Look, we're biased, we're a school, but I look at it with my own life, my own career, all the skills that I have today are money I spent 15 years ago, 10 years ago on mentors and boot camps, and now I have those skills forever. So I'm a bit biased. And look, if you stayed this long, do me a favor, hit that like button. Really appreciate it. We're gonna keep giving you these videos. I hope that you're learning something, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.